So what is in my camera bag as a wildlife, adventure, travel, weddings, property photographer in 2023? There is a lot of different stuff and I'm going to run through what's in it and why I use it in this video. If you haven't already, please subscribe. If you're new to the channel, I talk about all things travel related, camera related, videos of animals, wildlife, things I enjoy. I don't have a specific niche. There's not one thing that I love more than anything apart from watching wildlife in the wild. But I hope this video is somewhat informative for someone who doesn't have the cheapest but doesn't have the most expensive camera gear but is earning a living through using it in these different areas of photography and videography. So let's jump into what is in my camera bag. First of all, obviously you need a camera. It's complete personal preference. Really around the same price point. They all do pretty much the same thing. A lot of people are going to hate that comment, but once you start spending a lot of money, or even just, you know, a couple of £1,000, which is still a lot of money, I know, most cameras will do very similar things. You've just got to pick the ones, maybe have a faster frame rate if you shoot wildlife, have higher megapixels if your work's going to be blown up big, that sort of thing. You want to tailor it to your preference, but in general, I shoot with the Sony. I'm currently filming this on my main camera, the Sony a7R4. I've also got Sony a7R3 as a backup camera. This, my Sony a7R3, I've got this cheap little protective rubber case on it from Amazon, and this is currently sitting with the Tamron 70-180 f2.8. This is actually one of my favourite wildlife, travel, all-round wedding, landscape lenses because the compression on a 70-200 or 70-180 2.8 is absolutely amazing and it just gives you a really good perspective. It's also really good for wildlife because it's a low f-stop, it's a 2.8, it's great in low light. Typically when I go on safari, it's very early in the morning or late at night. You're often shooting animals at dawn and dusk. This, fantastic in low light. The camera is fantastic in low light, the lens is fantastic in low light, and with that low f-stop number and the very high quality of both the camera and the lens, you can crop in on that image and get a very, very clear image. So, number one, good camera, good lens. Plenty of other budget-friendly options. I shot with a Canon 750D for the first year or two before I could even afford any sort of remotely decent camera. Then I was lucky enough to have this, and then I actually bought my Sony a7R4 second hand. So, 2 cameras, 2 lenses. I've got the Sigma 16-28 lens. 28? Yeah. I've got the Sigma 16-28 lens on my R4, and I've got the 70-180 on the R3. Another all-round great lens if you want to shoot quite wide, but you also want to get some portraits, people, animals. The Tamron 28-75. 28 for wide, 70, or leave it at 50 in the middle for portraits. 2.8 again, very good in low light, very good bokeh, very good lens. Really not that expensive compared to some of the other 2.8 sort of medium to wide lenses that you can get. Biggest lens that I have, and to be honest, I'm really disappointed with it. I think I'm just one of those unfortunate people who got caught in this freak, not incident, but part where the Sony 200-600 just doesn't pair very well with the Sony a7R4 or 3. I took it to Kenya in September and I was just getting increasingly frustrated with it. I've read a lot of reviews online about how this lens just doesn't pair with some of these cameras for some strange reason. I tried all the different settings, updating the firmware, the lot. However, if you have a different Sony camera, A1 if you've got loads of money, there's other cameras out there. Or if you just have a Canon or a Nikon or whatever it might be, Lumix, Panasonic, and you can get a big lens, this is obviously going to be very good for wildlife, very good for sports, very good for zooming in on things far away. I wouldn't obviously use it for landscapes, but the compression is brilliant. This is the Sony 200-600. The great thing about it is it's got internal zoom, which means the lens doesn't come out when you zoom out to 600. About 2 kilos, it does get heavy holding it for a long period of time. However, one of my next pieces of must-haves for adventure, wildlife, all-round photography is a little bean bag that I use to rest on the side of the car window if we're on safari. This, again, something I picked up off Amazon, clip it onto my bag. It's great on the plane just to use as a pillow as well. But this is really good for resting your big lenses on top of. You just put that on the car window, stops all the scratching, stops all the bouncing around, and it's like a bit of a makeshift tripod. So that's really good, really cheap for the results that you get out of it. So what else is in my camera bag? If I'm shooting property photography, astrophotography, some stuff at weddings, I use a tripod. If I'm doing wildlife, adventure, I probably won't take it with me. We have come up with all sorts of ways to stabilise a camera without using a tripod while shooting things like the Milky Way in Africa, basically because we just couldn't be bothered to tug it around with us for a couple of weeks. One of those things is, again, to just use something like this to rest your camera pointing up, rest it on the top of the Land Rover, pointing at the stars. But yeah, you don't always need a tripod. There's people out there who say you should always use one, people out there who say you should never use one. Like anything, depends what you're using stuff for. Next up, I've got the drone, DJI Mavic. This is just the very first DJI Mavic drone. It's getting increasingly more difficult to be able to use a drone anywhere, hence why they've brought out the Mini, which is under 250 grams, 249 grams I think, unless you get caught out using the extra long battery, which takes it over 250 grams. If your drone is under 250 grams, there's a lot less restrictions. If it is over, then there are more restrictions, or you need to take more courses. It's very complicated, they keep changing the rules all the time. But in short, I don't use my drone anywhere near as much as I would like to, mainly because of all the rules and fines. In fact, when I got to Kenya, I didn't even know they changed it, so you weren't allowed drones in the country. They took my drone off me for the 2.5 weeks I was there, confiscated it, made me pay to get it back, and I just noticed when I went to check the bag recently that I've either lost or they kept all the batteries, which are about £90 a piece to replace. So that's frustrating. I love drone photography. It's great in Iceland. It's been great in other places, but it is getting increasingly more difficult. So this is sometimes in my camera bag. Camera bags, I have the Wandered Fernwa, I think it's called. It's one of the bigger ones. Huge amount of storage. It's probably a bit too big for a bag. I've used it in Africa, I've used it skiing, I've used it hiking over the top of the Scottish Highlands. It's come in handy quite a lot, but it is one of the bigger bags out there. It's a proper big hiking camera bag. It'll keep your stuff from getting wet. It's really comfortable to carry, but as I said, it is a big bag unless you carry a lot of kit like I do. 2 cameras, multiple lenses, big lens, drone, sometimes multiple hard drives, etc. Then you might not need such a big bag, but I'll leave a link to the bag so you can have a look at it. Some of the less exciting stuff, but equally as important, are things like microphones. I've got the Rode shotgun mic on top of here now, but I've also got the Rode Wireless Go. Great for just clipping on somewhere. Great for just clipping on. Really good sound quality. And you can get the little lapel as well. I do enjoy people sort of just holding them like this on YouTube and TikTok, but you can just get a little lapel so people don't know it's there. I'm happy with just that clipped on. Great for interviews, great for getting up close sound of wildlife, great for doing vlogs, that sort of thing. Also in my camera bag, some of the most boring stuff is just having little pencil cases for all your wires and cables and little gadgets and gizmos, bits of duct tape and spare plugs and sockets and universal charging things. Also, one of the biggest pieces of advice I can give you is if you're traveling, get a multi-thing like this, multi-socket, whatever it's called, because otherwise you've got to take like 20 different bloody universal chargers with you if you're in different countries. If you just have one universal socket and plug that in, you can charge multiple devices. Oh, I almost forgot. I've also been using a gimbal. which my camera is resting on. But I do have the DJI gimbal, I'll link that down below. Absolutely great for keeping your video nice and still. It's been really good to just have that out of the window on safari, getting the animals. It's also good when I'm shooting running stuff, when you've got runners coming up the hills or running past you, you can run with it and pan really nicely, gets lots of smooth footage. So that does fit in the bag, but it does take up a lot of room. And it really does depend on what type of stuff you're shooting. I shoot a lot of different stuff. Weddings, property, sports, adventure, travel, wildlife. So I've got a big range of kit. Not everybody is gonna want to be that diverse. Some people really want to niche down and just do sports or just do weddings, and that's absolutely fine. I like all of it, and I need a big array of kit to complement my needs. So over the last few years, I don't have the best kit, but I have picked up a lot of kit that serves me good purpose. It's by no means bottom end, and it's cost a lot of money, but it all serves a very good purpose, and it's served me very well in shooting lots of different things. So that's what's in my camera bag for 2023. I'll hopefully upgrade one of my cameras to be more video focused. If you've got any suggestions, leave it down below. I can see that the A1, amazing for photo and video, but comes with what, a £6 price tag, so that's probably not going to happen anytime soon. Apart from that, things like your storage, you know, your hard drives, rugged hard drives are great for when you're out and about. They're pretty light, they're pretty durable. Spare batteries, little bits and bobs like that. So that's what's in my camera bag at the moment for 2023. I'd love to know what's in your camera bag, and for you to subscribe and like the channel. Thanks for watching.